Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dami. If you're seeing my face for the very first time, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you guys for coming back. If you're new here, please make sure you subscribe, you like the video, you share. That's what we do here. Before you leave, I appreciate every one of you guys. At the title of today's video, you would have seen, so this is another highly requested video of people asking of I was able to prepare my CV and also the interview process for me to secure my job in Australia. If this is something that interests you or you want to know more about, please feel free to sit down, relax and keep watching. So now let's get into the details. The first point I'm going to be emphasizing on today is the fact that the length of your CV shouldn't be max 2 pages. It shouldn't be long. It should be brief and concise. It's not by the length of the pages that gives you the job or make the recruiter or company to reach out to you. So as much as possible, the information that should be on your CV should be very brief and detailed. Like, just extract what you think is important, if you know what I mean. So for instance, type of information you can extract is if you're applying for an accounting job now and in the past, because I've seen people who transition from being engineer and then move to accounting, especially audit firms, to continue their career. So in that instance, and you have a brief engineering experience, I don't think you need to put it on the CV. If there's a gap between when you finish school and your first job and things like that, and they need more explanation, they will definitely reach out to you to say what happened during this gap in your career and things like that. But apply for an accounting job with engineering experience, it doesn't count for anything. If they need to know about the gap in your CV, they would reach out. So remember, the first point is make sure your CV is brief and concise, maximum of 2 pages. The other thing I'm going to be talking about is the type of information you include in your CV. This is something I used to do in the past. I also used to make in the past, and because I think this is basically because of where, like, the environment we grew up in and the information that was available to us at the time. I would usually put my age, my gender on my CV, but I think it's something you should not do in today's world. Ensure you don't have your age, your gender, don't put it on your CV. Your age, you don't need it on your CV. Your marital status, you don't need it on your CV. The basic information that is required is your name, your email address, like that's the max, and maybe your phone number. Those are the key information about yourself. Trust me, if there's any other thing they need to know, they would reach out, and in the course of the recruitment process, some of this information would avail itself to them. So don't include your age, sex, your home address in your CV. And the easiest format, I've never heard anywhere where they said that the format of your CV is what gives you the job. I think it's just a mindset thing. When people ask, so Dami, how did you prepare your CV to get a job in Australia? I used my normal CV that I've been using, like just my normal CV. I looked at friends that were all in Nigeria together. It's not because I didn't pay anybody to prepare my CV that got me this job. I didn't do any of that. It was just the normal CV we had amongst ourselves in the office. I remember, like, if I remember very well, maybe we exchanged, like 2 or 3 people exchanging, or you can include this, you can extract this, exclude this, and things like that. There's no format. I've never heard that the format of the CV is what gives people jobs. So, like, throw that out, throw it out. Nothing like that exists. But what I can say is the easiest place to get good templates of a CV would be Microsoft Word. You're going to see different templates. For most Microsoft Word, you'll see it. So if you go to templates, you'll see CV or resume as well, and then you can just pick any one of them and update with your information, and that is all you'll need. You don't need any technicality involved. It's not meant to be. It's the quality of information you put into it, and trust me, no one would do this for you. And as much as possible, you don't even want paying someone who prepares your CV and then they include all this generic information, such as saying, oh, I'm goal oriented, I have good work ethics. Everyone is, so you don't want to give your CV to someone to prepare for you and they put the same thing for thousands of other people as well. So try and write your CV yourself. use this template from Microsoft Word and I'm sure you're good to go. To consider and to, like, this is very important for this video. I would say this is the most important point. Ensure that your CV is tailored to the job opening, and I think I've mentioned this in my previous video of when I did the job offer, seek and Indeed video. Another thing, just be sure that you've tailored your CV to the opening, directly to the opening. And if you've heard before as well, there's a way that most companies, especially big companies that receive volume of applications on a daily basis, so they have the scanner that they use to scan your CV for keywords in the opening. For instance, a company puts out a publication and says we need someone who has a key experience in Sage. So you want to make sure that when you're preparing your CV, Sage somehow, somewhere is present on your CV, because by the time they are searching your CV, they are using this machine that they've just put in the keywords of what they're expecting from like the candidate, their preferred candidate, and then they start searching for all the keywords and they don't see it on your CV. Trust me, that's where you drop off the recruitment process. So you don't want to, at least go through the process, don't drop off too early. And for instance, you might even have some of these skills, but like you write it in another way or format, you know what I mean? So try and make sure that the right word, so if they write Sage, make sure it is Sage you're putting in your CV. Don't go and write, oh, I have good knowledge of accounting package. That's generic. That does not speak to what they need, and like the machine would not be able to, the machine does not have the ability to be able to differentiate accounting package and Sage is part of accounting package. So make sure you're putting in the keywords in the opening. If they say they need someone who have a skill on how to use Microsoft Office, make sure it is Microsoft Office you're writing in your CV. Don't go and write, oh, I know how to use Excel. You know what I mean? So Microsoft Office encompasses Excel, Word and all those things. If you know how to use all of that, make sure in your CV you're putting Microsoft Office, not, oh, I know how to use, because maybe you know how to use Word and Excel. During the recruitment process, they can go further to ask you, to what extent do you, like, which of the applications in Microsoft Office do you know how to use, and to what extent do you know how to use these applications. So I think that's very important, and that's the most important thing. And make sure you just tailor your CV to the job opening and to the skills required for that opening. Don't just put, oh, I know how to do communication skills. Like, those are very generic. Make sure you look at the publication or the job vacancy, check the description, check what we want. So, you know, when you say job vacancy, they write who we're looking for. So the key factors they've put in who we're looking for, make sure those things are included in your CV as much as possible. And the final point I'll be talking about is just the references. So most of us, we tend to just include the references on our CV, like, oh, you can contact this person, this person. I don't think you need to put in your references. By all means, if you feel you want to, feel free, but for personally, I don't think you need to put in your references. Just put it there, available upon request. And once you proceed on the recruitment process, they will definitely ask you to provide those references as much as possible. Make sure you've told the people you're including their name, just so they are prepared, and then the call from the recruiter is not coming as a shock. Make sure you tell the people you're going to be using as reference that you're going to be using them, and basically that's about it. You don't need to do anything extraordinary. Trust me, to your CV. The key thing is include, if you didn't get anything from this video, take this from me, including those keywords is very important, and tailoring your CV to the description of the job is also very important. Those two facts, and make sure your CV is not too long. With that said, so once you get your CV, by God's grace, you've gotten the job, like they've shortlisted you and they reach out to you, the next process is usually the interview process. For me, when I was coming here, I've done quite a number of interviews, like God knows. But when I was coming here, my interview process, which is similar to what I've seen around as well, it starts with the HR. The HR will reach out to you, ask a few basic questions just to see if you meet other criteria, or because when I started my recruitment process, for instance, the office I applied to, I don't know if to say this, the office I applied to initially was Sydney. And at the time, because of the number of my family, I don't think Sydney office was willing to accommodate me, of the same company. And then the recruiter asked me, and that was just the first stage of communication, to say, hey, sorry, I wasn't successful, you know, it was just a phone call, basic HR information that they asked me that made me unsuccessful for Sydney, and then asked me, will you be interested in Brisbane? To the glory of God, I'm like, I don't even know Brisbane. I've never heard about Brisbane before. So I'm like, oh, why not? I just want to jackpot, you know. You know, like, I don't know what Brisbane is, I don't care, just, yeah, give me Brisbane. And then that was it, and here I am, I landed in Brisbane. So that's the next step of the recruitment process. The HR will call you and ask you basic questions that would move you to the next. And trust me, for the HR, you don't need to prepare. It's just basic information about yourself that just helps them know if the recruiting you fits to their budget, and they will ask you salary expectation and things like that. So that's the first stage. The next stage will be you speaking to the for the actual interview, and this interview would be maybe 2 or 3 senior people in the organization. And trust me, take it from someone who has been on both sides. I was privileged to interview few candidates recently in my office here in Australia, and trust me, you don't need to do too much if you know what you're doing. Like, take it from me, we tend to over prepare for this interview process, and the basic questions, the questions you are asking, if you really have the skills you've mentioned in your CV, should be something you are able to answer from the top of your head. And I really love Australian interview process, because one of the things that is expected of us, even as interviewers, when we are preparing for the interview, is as much as possible we're meant to make the interviewer feel comfortable before we dive into the questions. Like, just say, how are you doing, like, just to create a good atmosphere. It's not meant to be tough. We don't come into an interview room with 4 or 5 people that makes you feel intimidated. It's just 2 people, and we are very relaxed, and we are expected to be relaxed, and it's not a battleground, you know what I mean. So that's the atmosphere we'll first create, and then we start the questions. And that was the same experience I had when I was recruited as well. So they asked me basic questions. I remember very well, my recruiter was the manager who interviewed me at the time was asking, do I like sweet or sour? And we're talking about how I love cooking. Like, that was the beginning of my interview. So you're meant to create that kind of atmosphere before you dive into the real questions. And the other questions that you would be asked are things you do on a day-to-day. They are not technical, you know what I mean. They are not technical questions. That's not how it starts. So they are just normal general questions of how you manage things in your day-to-day job. So with that as well, I don't think you need to over prepare or do anything extraordinary to prepare for such interview. In my opinion, there are things you've experienced along the way, how you've been able to manage people. For instance, if you apply for a senior or a manager role, they will be asking you how you manage people when you're faced with challenges. How do you manage those challenges and things like that. It's your day-to-day life. Because for me, it comes to my head immediately, because this is what I do on a daily basis, so I can answer those questions on the spot. And then they will ask a few technical questions, and the technical questions as well will still be the things you do on a daily basis. An accountant, for instance, most common question might be if there's a new standard, for instance IFRS 16 leases. They might just ask you, have you applied IFRS 16 to any of your clients? What are the challenges you face? And basic, so you should be able to go in depth to say, oh, IFRS 16, this is what it's about. It is about leases. What type of lease fall into IFRS 16? You should just be able to explain all of these things, you know, to talk about modifications briefly, talk about, oh, like just all of these things, right of use asset, lease liability, briefly, not detailed. And if you don't know it, trust me, feel free to say. And if you don't know it, they would happily ask you, okay, so if you've not used IFRS 16, it's not compulsory to know the answer to this question. If you don't know, just tell them, oh, I don't know this, but I know this. Oh, I don't know much about IFRS 16, but I have a good knowledge and understanding of IFRS 15, which is revenue. And then just tell them about it, you know. So it's very, I won't say it's very easy. Prepare just to maybe have eye contact, you know, those basic things. But every other questions would not be daunting or something that you've never heard before. There's nothing out of the blues they bring. Most questions are just not your technical know-how briefly, but mostly your general skills and knowledge, and people management skills. Those are the things they would be looking for. Yeah, so that's about it. I've interviewed before here. I've been interviewed as well. So for me, I'm just at the point, maybe because of how I've gone through this process over time, I don't see myself sitting at home trying to prepare for an interview. You want to come relaxed. You want to maintain eye contact during the interview process, and just prove to them that you know what you're talking about. You don't want to stammer. You don't want to keep like start thinking. Feel free to be like, oh sorry, just give me some minutes to think of this, to think this through. It's not a problem if you say that. It's not a problem at all. Just say, oh, I need to. They like people who are very sincere, so just say it. Oh, I'm having struggle thinking this through. Can you give me just few seconds to think it through? It's not a problem. You can do that as well. So yeah, that's basically about it. I hope this video helps one or two people. That will make me happy. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.